Welcome to the Facts That Matter. I'm Erin Wilson. Today I want to share 4 facts with you about supply chain. First, I want to welcome Ron Couch, expert service provider of security products. Welcome, Ron.
Thanks, Erin. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Now, let's get to the facts. It's a fact that more than half of logistics managers surveyed by CNBC do not expect the supply chain to return to normal until 2024 or after. It's a fact that one of the top 5 supply chain challenges is keeping transportation costs down. It's a fact that 61% of the respondents to CNBC's survey said their current supply chain is not operating normally. It's a fact 76% of distributors reported supply chain disruption as the greatest issue currently impacting their business, with the remaining 24% reporting staffing as the top challenge. With more than half of logistics managers not expecting the supply chain to get better until 2024 or later, what do security providers need to do to mitigate those challenges?
Well, it's our responsibility to help get customers what they need when they need it, regardless of the global supply chain related items. They need the products to open their facilities and to secure their people and their staff. So it really is a great opportunity for us to really show and enhance what we do in the market and how we can help buffer them from supply chain issues through having more inventory, through having more access to products that give us more options in the market, expediters and the like, so that we don't have to live with traditional product lead times.
And with increasing that inventory, does that help have the right product, or is that still a risk about having the right product at the right time?
It's a risk. It's a risk that we've been willing to take because we're a service provider. And we try to make the inventory as flexible as possible. In our industry, wood doors have been a pretty major issue. And if something gets damaged on the job site during the construction phase, waiting 16 plus weeks isn't a great option. So having door slabs that can be finished and can be machined in our shops that allow us to quickly respond to those items when necessary makes a lot of sense. On a normal project, if there's a long project cycle, you can buffer things on the standard, but when those exceptions come up and change orders and damage happens, you need to be able to respond to those quickly. So that's what our inventory is focused on. Not supplying a whole project, but supplying the demand needs as the project goes forward, or supplying some of the smaller end user demands.
What about the transportation costs in getting those products in early, and then getting the products to the job sites, and then those changes, getting those to the job sites with the increased cost of transportation? How do you mitigate those challenges?
It's very difficult to mitigate the increased cost of transportation with gas going up and with really just the availability of shipments being problematic, with being able to get, we've all heard about the issues with getting containers. There's a driver shortage in the market. So there are multiple factors driving this, not just fuel and those type of things, but multiple factors. The other factors that are problematic is just job site readiness and coordinating with job sites and being efficient when you are at the job site, because they have a narrower window of delivery slots available because they have limited staff and receiving. So there's a lot of logistics that go along with logistics and supply chain, obviously, from a transportation standpoint. We try to accommodate the needs of the customer, so we are willing to make extra trips, which is additional cost. But again, from a service provider standpoint, we think there's a huge benefit to that. Where we try to consolidate shipments into our building, we're more accommodating on shipments leaving our building. So we're trying to be efficient on the inbound, and we're trying to be customer-centric on the outbound.
a lot of coordination goes into that, making sure you've got everything at the right time to get it out at the right time,
Right.
as efficiently as possible.
Right.
So doing that and making those extra trips, 24% had a problem, said staffing was their largest problem. What are you seeing for staffing challenges?
There are staffing challenges absolutely in the marketplace, in the construction industry in general, and specifically in our business as well. The trends that are happening are there are people that are retiring, and there are people that are choosing different work environments, remote work and things of that nature. So it's constraining a little bit the inbound access that the construction industry has to labor overall. And if our customer is constrained on labor, then it creates more coordination on our end. Again, as I mentioned, the time slots are narrower for deliveries, and you have to really be sure they understand what's coming so they have the manpower there and available to do what you need. And if there's equipment like a lull that may be needed, you need to coordinate all that. So it's inefficient to one extent because there's less manpower. On the other side of it is creating more opportunities to drive efficiency because you have to be more efficient because you have less people. So we're looking at it as an opportunity to move our business ahead and get more efficient and better utilization and better use out of our vehicles and out of the drivers that we have and the warehouse staff that we have. And we're actually making more deliveries with the same equipment by just coordinating better and staging things better and prepping things better so that we can turn it faster.
Working smarter, not harder.
We try to do that. It works a lot of the time.
A lot of time it does, and when you think you're working smarter sometimes and somebody else doesn't quite match,
right,
and they do it a little bit differently, but yeah, coordinating those deliveries to the job site, making sure that they've got the right personnel, because taking off a pallet of door hardware is a whole lot different than taking off a pallet of doors,
right,
or frames, because
right.
a lot of times those frames have to be handed off one by one, especially if
indoors. You need a lull,
ones.
To generally get those off, and it's very interesting what we're trying to do, which is really create more space. What I mean by creating more space is having more visibility into what's coming up so that we can better plan. Traditionally, things have been very near term, what's being delivered tomorrow. You're working on that today, what's being delivered tomorrow. We just tried to push that back, so we're not trying to work on what's being delivered tomorrow today. We're trying to work on what's being delivered 3 days from now today so that we can create more space, be more efficient, have better planning, have better coordination with the job site. So we're calling them, 48 hours in advance instead of en route, so that we can be more efficient. So those are the things that we're doing that's, I think, are going to be here to stay because they are beneficial for us and very beneficial for our customers.
Yeah, trying to look further ahead, it does help you be a little bit more efficient, and it can help you spot any problems that you might have where, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we don't have X product yet.
Right.
When's it going to be here? Is it going to be here in enough time to get to that? Is it better to wait? I mean, if you don't have all the frames, you can't install the doors.
Right.
And if you don't have hinges, you can't hang doors.
Right.
So you got to make sure that you have the right product and getting it there in the right time.
Some of that's, I'll call it coordinating and collaborating with our customers because, again, I think in these challenging times, it gives you more opportunity to have conversation, not less. What I mean by that is, back to the hinges and the door related issue, it's our job to get the hinges to the job site 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the doors. That way the customer can shake everything out can put everything in a hardware room staged properly so that when the doors do get there, they're ready for it. So it's helping make them more efficient. If we send the doors and the hardware together, now the doors are in the way while they're trying to sort through and coordinate the hardware, and it's not as efficient. So we'll plan the hardware to be delivered a period of time before the doors are delivered to help our customer, and it also helps us but it creates more trips to the job site. So there's that. But it's not about the trips, it's about how full the trucks are and how efficient you're making those trips. So if we can, instead of getting 7 deliveries a day, if we can get 12 deliveries a day or 10 deliveries a day, we're still being more efficient than we were because we're making more deliveries.
Yeah, more deliveries, and that helps mitigate your transportation costs.
Right.
And even just doing something as simple as just looking at where those deliveries are going and planning the route accordingly to accommodate traffic patterns. Okay, you're going by a school. Well, schedule those deliveries where you're not impacting that school zone and that arrival and dismissal time, because then you're just going to sit in traffic.
And it's some small things too, Erin, such as, when we stage things now, we know how big our box trucks are. Everything's staged out in a way that is by the delivery. So, and we've already called ahead, as I mentioned, 48 hours in advance. So we know where the first delivery is, the second delivery, the third delivery, the fourth delivery. So they're staged in the trucks that way. And we've already readied the customer for when, giving them a time zone is when we're going to be there. And then we're calling 45 minutes ahead when we're en route to be there. So the turnaround time on site is more efficient. And imagine your first delivery, the customer's not expecting you. They didn't know what you were bringing out. They don't have the manpower to get it off. Now all the rest of your deliveries are delayed. So we've reduced the number of those kind of items, which is, some of this constraint has created, actually very good opportunities to have conversations with customers and to get better organized and coordinated.
We've talked about staffing challenges and supply chains, but with 76% of service providers reporting supply chain is the biggest challenge, and the rest of them staffing, is it really one or the other, or is it really intertwined and both of them are causing the efficiencies and collaboration?
Well, when you combine the two, it's a multiplying effect, right? So if you're having supply chain issues and you don't have the staff to deal and get ahead of what those issues are, then you're just going to fall further and further behind. So the two do kind of contribute to each other. They create more inefficiencies if you allow them to create more inefficiencies, because the staff can get overwhelmed and feel a little bit helpless and feel victimized by what's going on with the supply chain. So we want to take a more proactive approach to it and look at the supply chain challenge as it's something that everyone's experiencing. What can we do to buffer our customers from the impacts of just doing what's typical versus trying to do it smarter and more efficiently, which then in turn supports our staff and keeps alleviates some staff attrition that can happen when people feel overwhelmed. So our warehouse team actually feels better organized today than they felt just a few years ago, because the things that we're putting in place are driving efficiencies which allow and enable them to be more successful. There's some incremental cost in the business associated with bringing in inventory earlier and staging things earlier, just from a space availability standpoint. But we see the benefits of it far outweighing, the minimal cost associated with those things. And from a culture standpoint, from a staff satisfaction standpoint, it allows them to plan better and see, again, illuminate the road in front of them, illuminate the path ahead so that they can feel in control. Everyone gets more stress when they feel they have no control, and whether that's the customer. If they don't have the material on the job site, they can't install it and execute the work. they get very stressed when they don't have the material when they need it. And likewise, our staff gets very stressed when they feel like they're behind, they have no control, and all they're doing is trying to catch up. So by pushing the mindset to where we're actually working ahead and not working on today, we're working on, 48 hours, 72 hours ahead, it just alleviates some of those problematic areas.
The overwhelm, the anxiety, you talked about collaboration, and I remember some time ago, years ago, everybody's like, hey, collaboration's the next thing, and it just never seemed to really go anywhere.
Right.
Until now, that with supply chain issues and staffing issues, that we're getting that collaboration. It's kind of being forced on us,
right.
But at the same time, that collaboration is alleviating the stress. It's alleviating the overwhelm because, one, everybody's in the same boat. And two, when you start talking about it and seeing what you can do and planning a little bit further ahead, releasing that, and it reduces the stress. You know what's going on. You feel like you're making progress and getting things done.
Right. The needs of the customer drive the conversations, right? So if you roll the clock back a few years, they didn't really need to talk to us. We were supplying good enough, right, to flow in and fit in with the rest of their process and expectations. However, our material is all critical path and could hold up other trades. And again, with the resources being more precious than ever before, us holding up trades, if they have to send drywallers away because our frames aren't on site, getting those drywallers back on site is very problematic. So this has created a window of opportunity for collaboration and coordination because it's a, buyer's market, as far as it goes with the subcontractors. So they have other jobs they can go to that are ready. If your job's not ready, I'm not going to sit around and wait on you. I'm going to have to go to the other job. I'll get back to you when I can, which then has a ripple effect and so forth. So I think the contractors are much more open to these conversations now than they were before. And it's actually benefited us quite well. That's why, we view things from a service provider standpoint as different than just delivering material to a job site transactionally. It's a different approach. You get different results. So much inefficiency in the construction process, just in general. There's, millions of dollars of inefficiency in the construction industry. And one of the ways that the contractor is going to win in the future is themselves driving out some of the inefficiencies, which is going to force more collaboration. So we feel real good that we're, I'm not going to say ahead of the curve, but we're very much in alignment with what the customer expectations are.
Nothing like a pandemic to get rid of good enough is no longer good enough,
right.
And to get rid of inefficiencies that have been there for decades.
Right.
So for all that matters, what matters the most?
What matters to us the most is getting our customers what they need when they expect it and living up to our commitments to help them look good in front of their customers. It's a very bad feeling and a very bad impact on relationships if we're making our customers look bad in front of their customers, especially when they are the ones that selected us. If we can't perform, it only reflects poorly on them. So we want to keep our customers out of harm's way. We want to be a solution and not a hindrance. We want to manage our scope and not have them manage us. So really, the main thing that matters is meeting commitments and being focused around what the customer's expectations are and really understanding what those are so we can be in alignment with that.
Awesome. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I think we covered quite a bit, Erin.
We did. We talked about a lot of things.
Good conversation. Excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks again, Ron. I'm Erin Wilson, and thanks for joining us on another discussion about the facts that matter. Remember, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell to be alerted to new Facts That Matter episodes.